Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for being here today. All of our attorneys, our members of the media, our community leaders, and our leading advocates. My name is Hudaberry Harajli, and I'm the Executive Director for the Arab American Civil Rights League, also known as ACRL. And for the media, that's HOUDABERRI-HARAJLI. Let me begin with exactly why we're here today in front of the federal courthouse. Today, ACRL, together with Lebanese American plaintiffs, have filed a class action federal lawsuit seeking accountability for the destruction and devastation that has been suffered by Arab American families and their property in Lebanon. This lawsuit names, among others, the United States Secretary Marco Rubio, Boeing Company, Lockheed Martin, and Caterpillar. Our complaint raises serious concerns and claims involving what we describe as Israeli exceptionalism and special treatment for gross human rights violations in Lebanon, failures concerning the application of the Lehi law, and the alleged responsibility of corporate actors whose products and equipment are at issue in the destruction suffered by these families. Today is different for ACRL in another very important way. Usually, when we stand on courthouse steps or alongside plaintiffs, we stand beside them. Today, ACRL is named as a plaintiff itself in this federal class action lawsuit. For me, this case could not be more personal. I'm an attorney, and I believe deeply in the rule of law. I'm also a Lebanese American who lives right here in the Metro Detroit, Michigan area. My late grandmother owned a home in Lebanon, God rest her soul, who was also an American citizen. She preserved that home and ultimately left it as an inheritance for her children, my father being one of them. Well, that home was recently destroyed by Israel in the south of Lebanon, in the city of Tibnin specifically. We have rebuilt it since, and it was hit again. This is something tangible that remained of my grandmother, something she left for her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren, something that was supposed to remain in our family for generations. So when I speak about Arab Americans losing their homes in South Lebanon, their lands, their businesses, and their family history, I'm not telling somebody else's story. I'm telling all of our stories. The world is watching this destruction happen in real time, and you know why? Because Israel does not shy away from gloating and showing off their war crimes, often celebrating them. We have seen photographs, videos, satellite imagery, publicly available footage documenting the destruction and the razing of villages in southern Lebanon. This is why the Lehi law matters. In basic terms, the Lehi law is a federal law that generally prohibits U.S. assistance from certain foreign security force units when we have credible information that there's gross human rights violations taking place by that foreign military. Congress created that safeguard for a reason, and our position is simple. The Lehi law exists, so we're going to make sure it gets applied. We're going to make sure it gets applied consistently and equally. There cannot be one standard for the rest of the world and another standard of exceptionalism for the state of Israel. We're also deeply concerned about the recent maps that were published just yesterday depicting a greater Israel with some of South Lebanon. Let me be clear, southern Lebanon is Lebanon. We understand who we're taking on. We understand the power of the government and corporate defendants named in this lawsuit. And you know what? We're here anyway. The law does not become less important when a defendant is powerful. That is when the law matters most. For years, ACRL has written letters, issued statements, held press conferences, met with officials, and advocated for our community. But there comes a point when another statement is just not enough. For us, that point is today. We will not ask these Arab American families to walk into the fight while ACRL remains on the sidelines. And that is why ACRL is a named plaintiff in this lawsuit. And before I close, I just want to say one final thing. You may believe that by destroying our homes, you're destroying our culture, that by razing our villages, you're destroying our heritage, that by destroying what generations have built before us, you can erase our memories, our history, and our roots. But let me be very clear. You will never destroy our faith. You will never destroy who we are. You will never destroy our culture. Our grandparents rebuilt, our parents rebuilt, we will rebuild, and our children will rebuild if necessary. You cannot destroy a people who refuse to surrender their identity, their faith, or their connection to their homeland. And with that, it is my privilege to turn the podium over to our chairman, Nasser Beydoun. Thank you.
Thank you, Huda. Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. My name is Nasser Beydoun, and I'm the chairman of the Arab American Civil Rights League. That's NASSERBEYDOUN. Today we are here because there comes a moment when silence is no longer acceptable. When government refuses to act ethically, when it refuses to follow its own laws, and when its policies no longer reflect the values and interests of the American people, citizens have not only a right, but a responsibility to stand up and demand accountability. We believe that we are living through such a moment. We have watched a corrupt administration, in our view, has been tainted by power, special interest, and a foreign policy establishment that too often puts political influence ahead of American interests and American values. We have watched Congress continue to authorize trillions of dollars in weapons and military assistance while civilians are being killed, families are being displaced, and entire communities are being destroyed. And we've watched our government continue to arm and provide diplomatic and political cover to Israel while it continues its genocide in Gaza and serious violations of international law in Lebanon. But for the people standing here today, this is not an abstract foreign policy debate. We are American, and these are our homes. American citizens have watched their property that their families spent lifetimes building being destroyed in South Lebanon. My family is one of them. My father worked for more than 30 years at Ford Motor Company. He worked, saved, sacrificed, and eventually built our family home in Bint Jbeil. Construction began in 2000 and was completed in 2006. That home survived 3 wars. Then, after decades of sacrifice, it was destroyed. Right after, 3 days after Israel agreed to a ceasefire. And my family's story is only one among many represented in this lawsuit. So today we're asking a very simple question. Who speaks for the American citizen when his own government will not? When the State Department will not act, when Congress will not act, and when the executive branch continues policies that we believe violate American law, where does the American citizen turn? When American corporations continue supplying weapons and equipment that plaintiffs allege are being used in the destruction of their property, where do American citizens go for justice? The complaint alleges that Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Caterpillar, and others supplied instrumentalities despite knowing or having reason to know of an unreasonable risk or harm. That is why ACRL is filing this lawsuit. Our complaint alleges that the United States government has failed to properly enforce the Leahy Law and continued assistance despite credible information concerning gross violations of human rights. It also seeks to hold private corporations accountable for their alleged role supplying the means of the destruction. This lawsuit is more than Lebanon. It's more than Israel. It's about more than any one administration. It's about whether the rule of law still means something in America. And with that, I'll turn it over to our founder and the lead attorney on the case, Nabi Ayed.
Thank you, Nasser, our chairman, as well as Huda Harajli, our executive director. You know, we have many lawsuits that we've come before you for a number of years. Some of you have known over 20 years, and all the wonderful work that you guys have done. And I always say this to the media: you are the gatekeeper of the of justice. You tell our story. You give a voice to the voiceless. You put us on a level playing field to a certain extent. We appreciate each and every one of you being here today, as to this very important lawsuit. Before I begin, I want to say thank you to our wonderful team of attorneys, and I may say courageous attorneys. We've reached out to a lot of attorneys, but these are the courageous attorneys that stood up for civil rights, and they're not afraid where the chips may fall. Keegan McCory from ACRL, an unbelievable, wonderful, smart attorney that helped for months in drawing up this complaint, as well as William Savage, my partner from ACRL, as well as Jim Allen, a courageous brother in civil rights. Amr Zahar, who can't be here today with us. He's actually in Palestine doing a show over there. And as well as Jerome Goldberg, who's standing here next to us, is one of the few voices that stood up for justice for many, many decades that is also here supporting. We appreciate each and every one of these attorneys to taking on these challenges because, you know, we will be threatened and we will be tried to be silenced. But that's not what civil rights attorneys do. Civil rights runs through our blood. We breathe civil rights, we eat civil rights, we sleep civil rights. So we're going to continue to fight for justice for all humankind. I don't care what background it is. That being said, you know, I stood here on the same exact area 20 years ago when Israel was dropping bombs on 40,000 United States citizens and also dropping leaflets saying, you know, leave. While the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon and Beirut was dropping leaflets saying, stay in your homes. While the infrastructure was being destroyed, bridges being blown up. We filed that also 20 years ago. History has a way of repeating itself. Here we are again, 20 years later. Still, different organizations, still civil rights, almost the same kind of defendants. We sued Condoleezza Rice, Donald Rumsfeld back in the day, and now we're here again suing this Secretary of State under this administration, Secretary of State Rubio. So this lawsuit is a national implications lawsuit. This lawsuit is one of its kind. It's a landmark lawsuit that's going to address the importance of whether this country applies its laws equally. What I mean equally is that why is it that thousands of complaints that have been addressed under the Leahy Act across all sorts of nations, whether it be Ukraine, Jordan, Egypt, all around the world, absolutely apply. But when it comes to Israel, there's always an exception. This administration and other administrations, since the law has been passed since 1997, after Patrick Leahy, the Senator Patrick Leahy, has continued to violate that. So today we stand here and saying we're going to make you accountable for that. We're asking the judiciary. We're hoping and we're praying that there is no political influence on the judiciary. This is our last chance, as we see. We remind our community, our folks out there, our masses, that we have 3 branches of government, from executive, legislative, and judiciary. We know that some of them are running rampant on the 2 out of the 3, but we're praying for the judiciary to stand up, and we've seen them stand up in crisis throughout this nation's history. And we're asking the judiciary to stand up, to do the right thing under these crises that we're facing right now. The world is watching. They're seeing the injustice that's happening. And, you know, we're not oblivious where the arguments are going to be, well, this is a war, this is that, they're this and that. The fact is that we're saying apply the law equally to all people, regardless of who they are, what background, religion, creed, or ethnicity. Apply it equally. And if that's the case, Secretary of State Rubio, you've been handed down 600, 700, 800, 400 in the last year or so as to credible gross human rights violations. Do your job. Do your job. Make sure that you investigate under the Leahy Act, which the law says you're supposed to do, and not just turn a blind eye. Because certain rules that you passed or the administration has passed before you that are not actually law. You can't sit there and politicize the law. The law is the law. It should be applied equally across all backgrounds and religions. They've been hit with, we limited this class action lawsuit to individuals, green card holders, US citizens. By the way, who have tens of thousands of individuals in this region, southeastern Michigan, being home to the largest concentration of Arab Americans outside the Middle East, and the majority of them being Lebanese Americans, who are impacted by this. They have their homes there. They have generational homes, ancestor homes. And they cannot sit here and watch as their tax dollars are being used to destroy their own homes in South Lebanon, some in Beirut. It's as if you are funding the police to come over and put designated TNT around your house and blow your house up and just laugh at it. It's outrageous. This is the greatest nation in the history that we feel of the world. But they need to stand up to that. And sometimes the conscious mind of the people remind them that you need to stand up for that. These people, all that you see behind me here, are gracious, courageous individuals that are standing up for this. We don't care what our future impact may be, because we're standing up for justice. John F. Kennedy said, "No good deed goes unpunished." Well, we don't care. We're going to stand up, and we will stand up for each and every individual, regardless if it's an Arab Muslim or a Japanese or Asian or Hispanic or African American or Jewish brothers and sisters. We stand up together because justice doesn't discriminate. We're all born in this country. We're all born in this world based on equality. So it breaks my heart to see that every day that our government is allowing our tax dollars to sit there and blow up US citizen homes and green card holder homes. We say enough is enough. They need to be upheld to our Constitution. They need to be upheld to the laws of this state, laws of this country. The Leahy law is very clear. You cannot provide any kind of service, anything, military, intelligence, or what have you, when you are committing gross human rights violations. And they've had them. And the law doesn't say when you've decided that they've committed gross human rights violations. The law says that if you have credible information. I mean, there are a whole list of, you talk about the United Nations, Amnesty International, the world leaders, the Holocaust survivors, all are telling you they're committing gross human rights violations. And they must take that into account. That's what the law says. And they're still not doing that. So we're here saying enough is enough. So we brought a 12-page, the complaint is 85 pages long. We brought a 12 allegations, counts of the different allegations. Most of them are dealing, 3 or 4 are dealing with the Leahy Act. The rest of them are dealing with negligent entrustment as to these corporations. And I want to talk to you about these corporations. This is the first of its kind class action, first of its kind going after the corporations and the manufacturers. They're just as responsible as these individuals that are committing gross human rights violations. And when you talk about Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Caterpillar, it's not us just raising the flag. Some of their constituents, some of their board members, some of the resolutions that were passed by their board addressing some human rights violation and their concern. Norway pulled out their biggest investment fund, $2 trillion out of Caterpillar and other organizations because they were committing gross human rights violations. So they were already put on notice as to your human rights violations, and don't invest in basically genocide. Don't invest in gross human rights violations. Don't invest in destroying U.S. citizen green card holder homes. So we're going after them based on that. We feel we have, it's first of its kind. We never like to say it's a very strong case when it's first of its kind, but we've had some firsts here at ACRL. Whether it be the no-fly list, whether it be the banking closures, whether it be the first kids playing soccer in this country and being charged criminally. We've beat those, and we intend to beat this case as well and set precedents across this land that justice does stand for all. It doesn't just not apply to certain individuals or certain groups of people. With that, and I need to, we have 17 plaintiffs in this lawsuit. None of the families are here. Some of them have decided to put a Jane Doe or John Doe on the complaints because they're afraid. They're afraid of the repercussions. And they earn that right to be afraid. When they're laughing and putting TNT around your homes, and some of these homes, I want to remind the media, is that there's pictures of Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton sitting there in their homes, in their living rooms. Some of them have been recognized by political leaders of being what a wonderful American they are. And yet they blow up their homes. Left and right. They have absolutely no accountability for the actions that they're taking. We must stop this tyranny, and we must stop this aggression that's happening to our U.S. citizens. I'm not talking about war efforts or where have you. We're talking about United States citizens, green card holders that have property here. It's the same idea, whether it be up north or be in the Caribbean or Mexico or South Lebanon. These are United States citizens' homes. They should be left alone. Unless you have a damn good reason to go into that home, improve it then if you do. Now I can assure you they don't, because we know these individuals. They have nothing to do with the resistance down in South Lebanon and other factors of fame. So at that, some of the families could not be here. Some of them are out of state, some of them are out of the country, but some of them are really afraid, to the bottom line. That's why you don't see them here. But I want to also commend the families that actually put their name to this. It's not easy for them, especially when they could be targets, whether it be political, financial in this country or what have you. We commend them for standing up for justice under these set of circumstances. Again, this is an unprecedented case, and I open it up to questions now at this time.